It's so good to see you here. Um, Philip Crouch joins us from Tasmania, and I think you have the distinction, Philip, of joining us from the furthest away. And I love that you're here. And good morning to you. So thank you for that. We just double check that yeah. Okay, we're good. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, I want to thank you. This is our first presentation of 2005. Oh my God.
2005. Oh my God.
2000, what?
Time
Wow.
traveling.
What wormhole am I in? 2025, here we are. Um, and, I don't know if you got my newsletter and you saw that I wrote this thing about how, 2005, 25 is already shaping up to be just this huge transition on so many, um, just it seems like on every level, right? And and if you listen to astrologers and if you listen to people who are like spiritual guides and all of that, even the Vedic astrologers, everybody is saying, buckle in, because this is it, and this is what we signed up for, right? This is
Yeah.
what we incarnated for. It's ultimately a good and positive thing, but we do have to navigate it. We do have to kind of surf this wave, and so I decided that. The theme of this year, that all the speakers this year would have to do with exactly that. People who have presenting tools, to help us um, navigate these times. And so I want to introduce you to Michaiel Patrick Bovenes, who I just met last month, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a great story where we actually both went to a fire ceremony in January on the beach in Ocean Beach in San Francisco, that was led by a mutual friend and member of FMBR, and it was to release what no longer serves, to release what needed to not come into 2025 with us. And Michael and I just started
Connected.
talking. Yeah, like, hi, who are you? And just such wonderful energy and just a great, I consider you a friend already. So I'll tell you a little bit about him and then I'm going to turn it over to him. But so Michael Patrick Bovenes is an inspirational worldwide spiritual teacher, spiritual healer, hypnotherapist, meditation expert, and metaphysician. He helps those who have awakened to accelerate their spirituality and heal their lives, which is just perfect for what we're doing here. His work helps to transform stress into strength and struggle into greater freedom, confidence, and positive change. He's the founder of Solutions Philosophy and a featured author in Voices of Magic, as well as a five-star teacher on Insight Timer. You can find a lot of his work on Insight Timer. His destiny is to help humanity remember the truth of who they are by teaching them to own and embrace their inner power, the divine power of soul and spirit. Michael shares fresh insights, truths, deeper understanding, and compassion. And I hope you can feel that radiating from him already. So thank you for joining us and
Thank you,
welcome.
Judy. Thank you, Judy, and welcome everyone. Um, I am real excited to share about this topic. For one thing, change is something that's continually happening in our lives. And if we can learn to master change, I believe you can master your life. And it's the one thing that we have this really interesting paradoxical relationship with change. And today's topic, and what I've actually labeled this year, 2025, is the year of transition, transcendence, and trust. And all change requires trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your relationships, trust in life. And when you can understand this essential ingredient, you can learn to master the changes you want to make and also understand how to change your relationship with change. And that's what we're going to focus on this evening, is changing how you relate to change. So it's not about changing necessarily the behaviors of how you engage in other people and the world around you. The ego in us wants a tangible, like, what do I do next? And I'm going to give you steps, I'm going to give you techniques, I'm going to give you a sense of expansion of your consciousness so that you don't resist change like you used to. And one thing I've discovered and have learned from my own experiences over the last 40 years is there's this tug of war. A part of us resists change and reaches for it at the same time. You know, we want to change, we want to grow, we want to improve ourselves. You wouldn't be on here if you weren't into that part of personal development and growth. So there's a part of us that reaches for change. At the same time, we recoil from it. And it's that tug of war that if the reach is stronger than the recoiling, then you make changes in your life. However, if you resist it more than you want it, or you reach for it, then you procrastinate. And in procrastination, we often end up punishing ourselves. Procrastination is a form of self-punishment on some level. But what's important today is you're going to expand your awareness and change the way you think about change and let loose of some of that resistance so that you can move forward in your life and understand some of these keys to unlock change. So how I like to teach is I'm an inspired speaker, so I connect with my higher self before I talk to a group. Judy can attest to that. I took a 3-minute break to just get centered. And then my higher self connects with your higher self. And then the information kind of downloads. So if you have a question about something I'm talking about, please write it down, and then I'll pause periodically to say if there's any questions over what I've covered. And at that time, you can ask the questions and I'll read them, because when I'm in the flow, I'm not paying attention to the chat room. I'm not paying attention to, I'm in the zone, so to speak. So there will be time to ask questions, and we'll have time at the end as well if there's anything you don't understand. But let's dive into transition and change. What's the difference? Well, transition to me, and I looked it up in the dictionary a couple months ago. We think of transition as somebody's transitioning or they've transitioned, but transitioning implies time. It's like a threshold. A part of me is in the past and a part of me is in the future, and I'm in the in-between. I'm in between who I want to be and become and who I've been. And that threshold is where transition is happening. I'm not quite there yet, but it implies time. And that's what all transitions is. And in our world, like Judy said, we are in a great transition, a great awakening, a great transition of who are we going to be as a humanity, but more importantly, on your journey, who are you going to be? And that's the first key to change. Your relationship to change comes from who you are. And I've noticed those individuals, those people who are the most terrified of what's going on in the world are people who have given their power away. This person's going to rescue me. This person's going to save me. The government's going to make my life work. That's not true. It can help. I'm not saying it's wrong, and they do have influence, but ultimately, who you're going to be is the first key to changing how you relate to change. Am I going to be a victim? Am I going to be powerless? Am I going to go into my old fears and my own insecurities? Am I going to come from what I often deem as the little s of self? The little s of self is the disempowered self, which is what we all are born into in each lifetime. We come into a lifetime and we develop our personality. And that is based on what we experience, the beliefs that were given to us, beliefs we adopted by perceiving the world. And we develop this little s, the disempowered self. And that's a part of our journey. But the goal of changing and evolving in personal growth is to become the capital S, the empowered self. So who am I going to be is something that you bring into your relationship with change. And the capital S is your true self. It is your soul, your spirit. It is your empowered self. And it's part of a journey of becoming empowered, because all of us begin as victims. Little kids can't take care of themselves. A little infant put on a park bench is, doomed without somebody there to take care of it. So we come into life and we're totally powerless. And the journey of our growth, the journey of our spiritual unfolding is to retrieve and take back the power we've given away, or we set down, or we continue to do in certain relationships or certain areas of our life. So the empowered journey and who am I going to be will change how you relate to change. The more empowered you become, the more empowered you feel, the more you can learn to dance with change and embrace change rather than be afraid or terrified or shut down because of change. There's a direct proportion by how empowered a person feels to go into the unknown, which is called the future. And there is a lot of unknown in our world right now. And a person who doesn't feel powerful, doesn't own who they are, that unknown is terrifying. However, when you take your power back and you know who you are and you stand in your power, then the unknown turns into unlimited possibilities. It's an adventure to seek out what's going to happen and to trust yourself. You know, you can't trust what's going to happen in the world, can you? You don't know what's going to happen out there, but do you trust yourself? And just think for a moment how different your life would be if you completely 100% trusted yourself. And what that really boils down to is being confident in yourself. You know, self-confidence, a big part of it is learning to trust ourselves. And not that we're perfect, not that we won't make mistakes, but that we will be guided and that there's a greater part of us that knows truth. There's a greater part of us connected called our soul. And that's where the solutions is found. Your solutions. It's not outside of us. It's not in the government. It's not in relationships. Those are all part of an expression of consciousness. But who am I going to be in my consciousness is the very first key. Is who am I going to be? Am I going to come from my power? Now, what does that mean? You know, becoming your empowered self. Well, there's 7 steps to it. And I'm going to go over those quickly, and then we'll pause, see if there's a question, and then we'll go to the other 3 keys to change how you relate to change. This journey of empowerment I've discovered and I've worked with and have helped people through my coaching and through my classes always begins with the very first step of a person who wakes up to realize there's more to life than just the ego's limited little s. They start to become aware of their self with the big S. Self-awareness is the first step on the empowered journey. Now, people can say, oh, I know who I am, yeah. And they've identified their personality with the little s, the ego self. And that's something we all know very well. Oh yeah, Michaiel, I know who I am. I'm an alcoholic, codependent, schizophrenic, bipolar, fill in the blank, right? Those are not who you are. Those are things you've experienced. But that's not who you are. The capital S is that empowered self, the truer you, the eternal you, the wise and beautiful, majestic spiritual being that you've always been and have forgotten or are remembering. And so this first step is self-awareness, to be aware of my capital S. And it's not just any self-awareness. It's self-awareness that leads to self-acceptance rather than self-rejection. That's the very first step on the empowered journey. Know thyself. You've heard that before, right? It's an awareness. Now, as you become aware of yourself from the capital S, the second step on the empowered journey is to remember who you are. So the capital S of self-awareness is then self-worth, is the second step, to own your worthiness, to own your value. See, the ego says, no, I'm not valuable. I'm worthless. I'm not good enough. I have to earn it. I have to prove it. I have to get people's validation and their appraisal and their approval. And it's never enough. It's on this hamster wheel of trying to get outside validation rather than owning their worth and value, trusting the value of who you are as a spiritual being. So the second step is not to get more worth. You can't. You already have it. It's about becoming aware, first step, of the worth inherent within you. And every human being has 100% worth. Every human being has a soul and spirit, and that's what makes us worthy. Is we are, I believe, expressions of God, Goddess, all that is, of the divine. And the divine doesn't make junk. So it's not about getting more worth, it's about revealing and owning it and feeling it. Now, I know some people will say, yeah, I don't want to do that. People will think I'm arrogant, right? That's your ego going in to try to sabotage the real worth. But arrogance, a person who's arrogant does not feel worthy. They're trying to convince everybody else they are because they don't believe it themselves. And arrogance has two sides to the same coin. In a world of duality, there's always the side that most people recognize as being better than other people. Right? I'm superior, I'm better, I'm arrogant. That's one side of the coin. The flip side of the arrogance is I'm nobody, I'm less than, I don't matter. That's arrogance. What, Michael? How can you say that? In a world of duality, better than and less than. Because you see, God, Goddess, all that is, created you, and you have power and strength and beauty to contribute to the world. And your ego saying, no, I don't. You're wrong. I'm right. That's arrogance. To tell your creator that they're wrong and you have it all figured out, that you don't matter and that you're less than. Do you see that arrogance in there? So the second step is self-worth, to own it. You don't have to do anything but to reclaim it. And that's by becoming aware of who you really are. And it's always a choice. It's always a choice to, and as all of you here listening have woke up, you've wakened up to more than just getting through life and paying your bills, and you know there's much more to life than just existing. So you've dabbled in, or you've dove deep into your spiritual growth, and that's beautiful. And that is the second step. Now, the third in this empowered journey, now this is also like climbing a mountain. First step, second step, and up to the fourth step is the most challenging part of this journey of empowerment. The third step is something you do. It's something you do. Now, as you become aware of who you are, spiritual being, as you become aware and you start to own your worth, then you want to bring it into the world. You want to function with worth, and that's called self-esteem. Third step is self-esteem on this empowered journey. Become aware, to own your worth, and then to develop self-esteem. What does that mean? That means having principles that you live by day in and day out. Self-chosen principles about being honest and responsible with integrity and trust. That's who I'm going to be. The way I'm going to interact with the world as a spiritual being is with self-esteem, and it's something I must develop. Because the ego wants the shortcut, just get to the end result. Shortcut, even though it cuts you short. To be dishonest, to be irresponsible, to blame, to do all these things that keeps you powerless. But principles are something you choose. And then beyond those four that create self-esteem, to be honest with yourself. What do I really want? Who am I? And to take responsibility instead of reacting to life. Let me respond and think and feel and evaluate and make new choices. Like today, to respond to the changes that you want to make in your life by changing how you think and relate to change. Integrity, letting all parts of yourself function in harmony with each other. The integrity of self. And then trust. Those are principles that I'm going to focus on developing. Now, beyond that, you can add more than that. It's not like your self-esteem is based on only those four. You can have a principle of being creative, of being compassionate and kind and caring. There's lots of principles, but they govern the way you interact with the world. And see, self-esteem is your self-appraisal, basically, how you see yourself and how you evaluate yourself in the way you interact with life. And at the end of the day, it could be a crappy day. You had a bad day at work, and you can still feel good about yourself because you think and you reflect and you think, I was honest and I took responsibility and I trusted the situation, trusted myself, even though I didn't understand everything that was happening. I trusted that we'd find a solution. I can feel good about myself because of self-esteem. The third most challenging I found from people I've worked with, and it's not something oh yeah, I did that in 1972, I got self-esteem. It's the way you live your life every day. It's the way you engage with life every minute of the day. And when we don't have self-esteem, we end up looking for false esteem, outside validation. Just tell me I'm a good person, just approve of me, and always trying to get more of it because it's never enough until you do it and own it for who you are. The ego's shortcut of getting outside validation, trying to figure out how to get a sense of value from what you do, not who you are and how you interact. So let's get back on track here. So number four, the fourth step on this mountain of change, and not, I'm sorry, this mountain of empowerment, the fourth step is self-love. Now that you have a sense of worth, I owning my worth, and I'm living it. I'm bringing it into the way I interact with people, being honest and responsible, even when it's not convenient. And then I can start to love myself. I have a reason to feel deserving. I'm a good person. I'm a good person because of the way I choose to interact, not letting my ego and its games run my life. So self-love is then the peak of this mountain. And people think that's it, I'm done. I'm like, hey, I'm empowered, I got self-love. That's only 4 of 7 steps. The fifth step, then, which naturally cascades from worth and esteem and love, the fifth step coming down the other side of that mountain is self-confidence, the magic of presence. When you know who you are, you like who you are, because you've developed becoming empowered and taking your power back and being loving and letting yourself be loved, then you can be confident and have the courage necessary, not that you know what's going to happen, but to go into the unknown, to go into the chaos that's going on in our world, knowing who you are and trusting who you are. Confidence, the magic of presence, is what I often call it, is the fifth in this seventh step journey. Then out of that comes the sixth step, which is self-respect. To respect yourself. What does that mean? You know, we throw around words a lot, and I love to dive into the real meaning of some of these words that people often use as weapons or tools, depending on how they use it. But if you look at the word respect, re means to return to go back to. Spect is to look at. Spectacles, spectator. So to respect yourself is to look deeper, look beyond who you've become, the ego, to who you become today. And so many people, when it comes to change, they go back to who they used to be without taking into consideration how much you've grown, how much you've changed, and how different you are. So a lack of respect is to go back to the past and to project the past. Have you ever been in a relationship with somebody that doesn't see who you are now today? Maybe you knew them in childhood and then they keep projecting who you used to be and you're not the same person. That's a lack of respect. They're not taking into consideration who you are now. They're trying to project the past. So self-respect is to look and to own, yeah, I've grown, I've changed, to own your value. And that's the sixth step. And then the final one is self-empowerment, which is also called self-realization. The process of being fully realized, from awareness to realization, from worth to respect, from esteem to confidence, with love in the center, right in the top, the most challenging to get to. Because without self-esteem, you won't really love yourself. If you're being dishonest and manipulative and controlling, even though nobody knows about it but only you, your subconscious mind's always evaluating, and you won't feel deserving of love. We are always paying attention to ourselves and who we are. So that's the journey of empowerment, 7 steps, which begins a lifelong change of why you've chosen to grow, is to empower yourself. So let's pause and see if there's any quick questions over that before we dive into the second key of change. That first key is changing, or who do I bring into change? Who am I going to be when change is happening? Am I going to go back into the old past, the disempowered me, into blame, into powerlessness, into fear? Or am I going to step into my power and own my power and be more aware and know I'm worthy and esteeming and loving and confident? So with that, any questions real quick? Do you see anything, Judy?
Not yet in the chat. So if you have a question, you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. I have a question.
Yeah, good.
As you're going through these things, and this is so beautifully elucidated, just it's very clear. And
Thank you.
I really like it. And I was thinking about how we do this as individuals, right?
Hmm.
Um, and it appears that we're doing this collectively, right? Almost like a collective initiation. You talked about
Yeah.
um, this transformation that's happening. And I'm just wondering what you're seeing in your work about um, how this process is going, because
Yeah.
mean, from my own experience, you sort of take two steps forward, one step back.
It's an integration. Yeah, the
It's
transition of change involves stepping forward, getting adjusted, lifting your vibration. And sometimes we go back to check on, oh, am I sure I'm done with the past? Am I, or is there more to forgive and let go of, or whatever? So yeah, it is not just like jumping from one to the other. It's a process of becoming your empowered self, and it's something we have a choice every day. The more you make the choice, the more you have the patterns and the feeling of it, the more it becomes who you are on a natural level. And guess what? Hear this. Who you've become, the little s, the ego, is a product of the world. You know, your beliefs, what you adopted, and they all have a purpose. Your past wasn't a mistake. You adopted those beliefs, you chose those parents and all of that to develop a limited self so that one day you would choose to take your power back and become who you are. So there was lessons in all of it. It wasn't like, oh, I wasted all this time and now it's time to get empowered. But more importantly, empowerment is always a choice. The more you make the choice, the more you stand in your power, the easier it becomes. And your soul and your spirit want you to evolve, which is major change, and to grow. So when you step into your empowered path and you work on, you have a lot of help. When you're in your ego, it feels like I'm on my own, which you are in so many ways. Ego eases grace out, doesn't want to receive love. It wants to earn it, it wants to do all these things, but it doesn't let it in.
yeah,
So we're doing that as a collective in the world, and people are having to make a choice. Which world am I
yeah,
going to be in? Am I going to be in a world that is disempowered and giving power away and fear-based and domination, the world of domination? Or am I going to change and step into the world of dominion?
yeah.
The,
The other thing is, I'm sorry.
no, go right ahead. Yeah, go.
I love the image that you said about you're sort of coming into physicality as an infant,
Mhm.
and setting aside the awareness of your connection to source, right? It's kind of a condition of being embodied, or at least it has been up until now. And um, when you talk about this process, it's kind of a roadmap, right?
Yeah,
It's a nice overview of this process that we've undergone, and I feel like so it really opens up the possibility of giving ourselves some grace,
yeah, yeah.
right? Individually and as a society, we're trying to figure this out. How do 8 billion people do this
And
together?
And ultimately, the only thing we can be responsible is for ourselves. And as we lift our frequency and vibration, as we do it for ourselves, it ripples out and changes people around us. Our frequency, our energy has impact. And yeah, you can see it. And as you step into your power, you start to attract more people who have, and you start to change your personal world, your own domain of dominion, your domain, this space you occupy in life, becomes filled with people who are trustworthy, and you create your own personal world that's a beautiful world, a safe world. And it's the world of dominion where it hinges upon a belief that we all come from the same source. And God got us all, that is created all of us. And the world is a friendly place. Now, we look out there beyond your own domain and you see a world of domination, which is, it's a dog eat dog world. We're all separate and alone, and we've got to manipulate or be manipulated. We've got to control, and we're not safe, and we're all separate, and we're all born sinners, and we got to. You see, that's the world of domination, which is a world born of paranoia,
Mhm.
paranoid. The world's out to get you.
Yeah.
But to get into dominion, you have to take your power back. And when you take your power back, you step into a new set, a new world personally. And you can still see the world of domination out there, but it doesn't have direct influence on you. But the world of dominion is a world of pronoia.
Mhm.
The world of pronoia. The world is there to love and support me. Which one is true, Michael? Which one is real? Whichever one you choose. And if you are in your power, you can step into dominion. When you give your power away, you're stuck in domination. And when you're in dominion, like I said, you can see the domination out there. It just doesn't have direct influence on you and your reality. But why we can see that is so we can send energy, so we can help, so we can be part of the solution. It's like your spirit guides are a higher frequency vibration. You can't see them, but they can see you. It's like same with dominion and domination. But we want to move on to the next keys if there's not any other questions, because
Yeah,
I've
go
got
ahead.
a lot to cover, and I hope everybody's getting some value from this so far. All right. Any other questions, or are we good?
We're good.
Okay. Let's dive into the second key. The second key of all change, positive change, is is this change a growth choice or a fear choice is a big part of it. But being conscious of that, being aware of that, am I automatically reacting out of fear? And to be conscious is to think about, why am I wanting this change? Why do I want this to take place? To be conscious of whether this change is a growth choice or a fear choice is really important. But the second key is about getting outside your comfort zone. It's more uncomfortable for a lot of people to stand in their power and to take their power back, to own their value, because there's not a lot of examples out there, unfortunately, in our world. We're comfortable more with being powerless and disempowered because, hey, I got lots of friends and lots of people we can commiserate and talk about what's going on and blame and go into all the egos games. And so to step outside your comfort zone is to reclaim your power, but to know that to step outside your comfort zone will challenge you. And when you can change how you think about challenge, because all change is a challenge, right? It's a challenge to become more, a challenge to overcome procrastination, if nothing else. But think about it. How often do we think of challenge as difficult? Oh, challenge at work. I got to do this report and challenge me. But what challenge is it stretches you to become more, to grow, to evolve, to challenge yourself beyond what you've done in the past. And I like this analogy, folks. You think about a surfer. They want to go out there and surf, and they get a lot of joy from surfing. Well, what is it that brings them the joy? Well, what is the goal? First of all, they're on the beach and they're going to go out and they want to ride a wave back to the beach. Well, they're already at the beach. Why bother? Hey, I'm at my destination. No, but they want to go out and they want to ride a wave that's going to challenge their ability to stand up and balance and to make it all the way back to shore. So they paddle out there and they don't take the first little piddly wave that comes along that doesn't challenge them. No, they want a big wave, right? One they've never done before. And they get up there and they start to ride that wave and they go all the way back to shore and they are filled with joy because challenge offers us growth and growth provides joy. And yet we think of the ego thinks of, oh, don't challenge me. What if I fail? What if I don't do it wrong? What if I do it wrong and don't do it right? What if people see me make a fool of myself? Whatever. And so we stop challenging ourselves. And when we stop challenging ourselves, then change becomes difficult. So getting outside your comfort zone and to be conscious of that. When somebody asks you to do something or invites you to go to a dance lesson with them or a class or something, and you automatically react from the ego, oh, no, I don't want to do that. It's a challenge. Stop and say, I'm giving away or abandoning a potential for great joy in my life. And change how you think of challenge as not being difficult, but being filled with the opportunity for greater joy. So challenge is a part of life because you came here to grow and evolve and to become more. And that's always involves challenge. Challenge is only to the ego that wants to believe it's less than and powerless. But when you take your power back, then you realize, no, yeah, I can have fun and I can make mistakes. I can do something wrong, I can make mistakes, and I can fail because I can learn and grow from all of that. But the ego identifies with what it does and what it has. So it says, well, if I make a mistake, I am a mistake. If I do something wrong, I am wrong. If I fail, I'm a failure. And that's not true. Again, going back to how you see yourself. So challenge is the second key. Owning who you are, who am I going to be with these changes coming up at work? If you have a lot of change at work, and I'm going to give you the most important key here in a minute. That's amazing. When I learned to master this, change became so much easier. But the first key is, who am I going to be, empowered or disempowered? And that's always a conscious choice. Second is, I need to learn to challenge myself. I need to be okay and change how I think about challenge and not see it as difficult or wrong or bad or something, oh God, I got to be challenged. If you think about it from the position of being in a job you're at that you've mastered and you've done it for years, when there's no challenge in a job, it becomes draining. and you just show up and do the same thing, and your life force gets drained because you're not challenging yourself to become who you are, and that's what you're here to do. Not constantly, but continually throughout life, you want to challenge yourself. But you can also bring challenge into your work. But let yourself change the way you relate to challenge. The third key, the third key is so important and so powerful. And that is what we resist change. Because all change, positive or negative, getting married, getting divorced, starting a new job, losing your job, all change. Big changes, small changes, all change. The part we resist, the ego resists, is what all change produces. Chaos. You cannot change without going through chaos. And when you can learn to change and understand and think about the chaos and prepare for it, like, oh my God, all this major change at work's coming up, a new manager, a new this, there's going to be a lot of chaos. And instead of being afraid of chaos, change how you think about chaos because it's a part of change. Big changes have a lot of chaos. Little changes have little chaos. I mean, just about a month ago for the new year, I was cleaning out my closet, and I had lots of stuff stacked up in there and it was getting cluttered. And I thought, oh, I need to change, clear it out. So one Saturday afternoon, I go in there, I start pulling stuff out, and all of a sudden my whole room is torn apart and there's bad boxes and what am I going to get rid of? And all this chaos, just cleaning out my closet. But my point being is that even that kind of change is mundane, means I have to go through chaos. Now, when I bring my power and strength into chaos, what I bring into chaos changes and influences the change. Meaning, if I bring fear, self-doubt, worry, blame, resentment, guilt, shame, if I bring all this stuff into the chaos, it's going to influence the outcome of the change. But if I bring my hope and my trust and my strength and my courage into chaos, it lifts chaos and the change becomes more positive. So knowing in advance that, yeah, it's the chaos that scares me. It's the chaos that I resist. I want to change, but I don't want to go through the chaos. Even if you want to start a new workout routine, it disrupts your routine, your pattern in the morning. I got to get my clothes together. I got to go do this. I got to plan it. I got to get a towel. I got to go to the gym. All this stuff. Oh, it's just easier to avoid all that chaos and just sleep in, right? Just to skip the gym. But it's chaos. And when you understand it, and when you stand in your power and you bring hope and your strength into it, then you can master change. How willing are you to engage chaos? How willing are you to challenge yourself? All of these will indicate how easy change becomes for you in your relationship with change. So chaos is, again, like challenge. The ego thinks of it as only dark. Oh, chaos is bad. You should avoid it at all costs. You shouldn't have chaos. You should just float along and be at peace and never deal with chaos. But there's light chaos and dark chaos. Somebody throws you a surprise 50th birthday party. That's chaotic. You come in, you're expecting something, and it's all different, and all your friends are there. That's chaos, but it's a joyful chaos. So changing how you think of chaos, changing how you relate to challenge, and standing in your power, which isn't as easy as it sounds, with the standing in your power, because some people have grounded into their victim consciousness, but most of you here are aware of that and have changed that. But it's so important, and when you do, you can learn to dance with chaos. You can see the joy in the challenge, and you can start to master your life. So chaos and the way you relate to it is so important. So those are 3 keys that I suggest working with in understanding. And I'm going to give you some techniques here in a few minutes, but I want to make sure we're okay with time as well, because we want to be able to pause and have Q&A. Does anybody have any questions, or do you want to wait for another 10 minutes and we do questions at the end? What do you think, Judy?
Let's do them at the end because I love this flow.
Okay. So now you know about what change involves. Does everybody agree? Like, yeah, chaos is what change always produces. Getting married, getting divorced. It changes your life. It throws you into that energy of change. And who I'm being and the energy I bring into it is going to influence the outcome of the change. So I'm not totally out of control like it feels, the ego feels, but who I'm going to be and the resonance and the energy I bring in influences it. So how do you begin to harness this and master transition and change? Obviously, I've talked a lot about trust. Trust is key. Trusting yourself, trusting your higher self, trusting life. Not that it'll be perfect, not that it'll follow your ego's plan the way you think it should unfold, but trusting your relationship with life, trusting that you've made it this far and life is there for you. What I've found that I've done is reprogrammed my subconscious mind, changing beliefs that used to limit me to more empowering beliefs. And one of the beliefs I've installed, there's two of them I'm going to recommend. One of the beliefs is everything always works out for me. So here you are, chaos is happening at work, and you get frustrated and you start feeling your old fears and your disempowered self starting to rise up, and just take a deep breath in. Now, you know what? I'm going to know this is part of change, and I'm going to focus on what I want to have happen here. Everything always works out for me. Now, some of you are saying, yeah, but Michaiel, that's not true. Well, that's because you have a belief that things don't work out for you. But the more you change that belief to know that that's true, and if you're here listening today, then most likely things have worked out for you more than you thought they were going to, because the ego thinks of the catastrophe, catastrophizes everything. Everything's a trauma nowadays. Have you ever noticed that? The collective loves to grab hold of a new word. Now it's like, oh my God, somebody didn't walk my dog today and I'm traumatized. It's like, okay, that's not really trauma, but it's a new buzzword. And there is, unfortunately, a lot of real trauma in people's lives, but I'm not trying to diminish it. But now it's become the new buzzword. Everybody's traumatized by everything. It's a little side note. But everything always works out for me is a way to anchor it. Another thing is I'm always at the right place at the right time for my safety, health, and well-being. That's something that I started when the pandemic started, with COVID out there. And I was like, oh, I need to reprogram to be at the right place at the right. So I started installing that new belief. Everything always works out for me, and I'm always at the right place at the right time for my safety, health, and well-being. Now, that was a new thought to me at the time. Now it's become anchored in my belief system. And anytime I do anything risky, like sometimes I live in San Francisco, I'll get on a scooter, go because I have to get somewhere and I don't want to take the car, so I just jump on a scooter. And I'm like, traffic and tourists and all this, and San Francisco is a pretty robust town. But the minute I get on the scooter, that belief's in my subconscious, but I double click on it, meaning I'll say it out loud. Okay, I'm always at the right place at the right time for my safety, health, and well-being, just to bring it up from my subconscious into my conscious mind. And then I trust the process and just go through the day, and I feel safe, and I am safe, and it creates reality. Beliefs create reality. If you believe love hurts, you'll create a reality to demonstrate. If you believe love heals, you'll create a reality to demonstrate it. I have a course on changing limiting beliefs, and I don't unfortunately have time to go into that, but changing your beliefs to get into alignment with your power, so important, in accelerating transition, change, and trust in yourself. So that first key is to interrupt the chaos and have some affirmations. I love and approve of myself. Everything always works out for me. It doesn't have to be these exact ones, but find ones that work for you. And when you're in the midst of chaos, take a deep breath, get centered, and remind yourself. Reprogram your subconscious mind can help you to accelerate and to dance with the chaos of change. The second thing is to get outside your comfort zone. Get outside your comfort zone. Consciously be uncomfortable from time to time. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to be uncomfortable going to that. I was invited to a dinner party and I don't want to go, and a part of me resists it. It's like, no, okay, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm going to choose to be consciously uncomfortable. And when you come from your power, it's much easier to do than if you come from being disempowered. But let yourself join that gym or go to that cooking class that you've been procrastinating. Make a list of things you've wanted to do, but you don't challenge yourself, and let yourself get outside your comfort zone, knowing that you live in a world that's there to love and support you. You're in a world that you can create that is safe, not because of the world around you, but because of who you are. That's the key. I trust myself to be at the right place at the right. I trust myself and everything will always work out. And I'm going to attract people who are loving and kind and supportive. As I lift my vibration, as I fill myself with my power, as I work through developing the empowered self, then that becomes the way you live your life. So yeah, when you get uncomfortable or you're stepping outside your comfort zone, that's where the challenge is. And guess what? That's where the joy often lies. Think about this. What have you done in your life that forced you or you chose to get outside your comfort zone? Moved cross country, went to college somewhere, went to Europe for 3 months, or lived in your, all these things that challenged you to get outside your comfort zone, and you were scared and you were afraid, but you did it anyways. And look back and see how important that was and how beautiful it was in your life. So be conscious and let yourself be uncomfortable. Knowing that you're strong and powerful is the second technique. The third one is to learn to dance with chaos. Know that chaos is a part of life. You're not going to avoid it as long as you're changing and growing and evolving. But learn to go into chaos and have fun. See the fun and joy of chaos. Dancing. Go out dancing one night. Do something. Learn a new, play a new instrument. Oh, what? My ego says, oh, I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm a beginner. Yeah. So what? Have fun. It's part of being a beginner is to make a fool of yourself, right? But go in and learn to dance with chaos, but ground yourself when there's a lot of chaos. Get grounded. If you're at work and lots of changes happening and you don't have time to go to the gym or you don't have time to go for a walk in the evening, you need to ground yourself. And one of the best ways to ground yourself and to bring yourself into the present moment is to be sensual. What do you mean be sensual, Michael? I only do that in the bedroom. No. Be sensual is to be in your five senses. When you're actually eating a meal, to taste it and to smell it and to taste the textures and to swallow and just to be in the present moment. When you go for a walk, don't be thinking about all the problems at work, but let me feel the sunlight on my face, the palpable warmth of the light. Let me breathe in the colors. Let me appreciate the beauty of the flowers. Go spend time in nature. Ground yourself. So important when there's major changes going on in your life. Oh, I don't have time for that. Don't have time not to if you want to navigate the change. It's the balance of self-care that often gets thrown out when you're functioning from the disempowered self that thinks, oh, that's a waste of time. I've got to keep working. We all know that here. That's obviously really important. But it is vulnerable to abandon that. So learning to dance with chaos and make a list of things that you can do that you've avoided that you're afraid of the chaos and challenge yourself. Maybe not with the biggest of them, but something that, challenges you or there's a little bit of chaos in there that you want to move towards. And you're going to feel so much better about yourself. You're going to strengthen your ability to change and to learn to navigate chaos. The any questions over there? I'm trying to think what else I can say here in the few minutes that we have that would be helpful. I've taught this class and actually I did a class on mastering change and transition, and that's available if you're interested. And also I have a mini course on changing limiting beliefs. It's called Rewrite Your Destiny, Changing Limiting Beliefs. And Judy at the end will give a link that you can check out any of that. Also, I do a newsletter, Solutions Wednesday, Wisdom Wednesdays, and Solution Sundays. Those have inspirational quotes. And if you want to keep in touch with me, if you got a lot of value from what I've had to say, maybe like my unique perspective, solutions philosophy, then you can keep in touch that way. But let's open up for questions. Or do you have any questions, Judy? Or
Yeah, I just want to encourage people if they have questions. People are being very quiet. I think I have to say, Michaiel, your presence is just so calming, and I feel just by looking at you and listening to you, I just feel really kind of dropped in, which is beautiful. I mean,
Well,
that's
thank you.
a lot to
Thank
your.
you. It's funny when I really connect and I connect with the audience, a lot of people don't have questions. It's like I'm speaking directly to them. A lot of people say, God, it's like you're talking directly to me. And there's 150 people I'm talking to. I'm like, oh, that's part of the channeling process, I think. But sometimes it'll be a good question. Here's a couple people with raised hands, it looks like.
Oh yeah, let me see. So, Donna, I'm gonna go ahead and let you unmute there.
Okay. Hi.
Donna.
I just wanted to say, I was trying to think about what the subtle small thing is that I could do that would challenge me. And I realized I actually took a stab at doing that recently and have taken another one, and that was I'm a person who never travels in a car with other people or joins people to carpool to go
Uh-huh.
places and do things together. It's I don't know, it's frightening to me, and of course I can't easily escape quickly if I need to or want to, right? If my
Yeah.
ego needs to or wants to. So I'm just thinking that I have recently created an opportunity to actually get get another piece of the bucket list I'm working on right now, which is to develop a new set of friends because I feel there are opportunities with those new friends that I couldn't otherwise have until I meet them. And so that combination of riding with other people to go do things that I wouldn't be doing is a really inviting challenge for me and
Yeah.
feels like it's a manageably safe one. So,
I think it's a great one, and it also speaks to the fear of being out of control, right?
mhm,
Like I got other people that can influence this ride and this drive, if especially if I'm not driving. If somebody else is driving, it's a little more vulnerable. But yeah, that's part of recognizing self-awareness. The first step is being aware that yeah, part of me resists it but that's where I need to trust.
mhm, absolutely.
Believe the world's there to love and support me, and I'm going to be fine. I'll be at the right place at the right time. All of that can help to let you dive into that uncomfortable, being consciously uncomfortable, and find the joy that you'll find there. I think it's great.
Yep.
Thank you.
I love that. I love how, because I wrote down that you mentioned trust a number of times in
Oh
your
yeah.
talk, and sort of trusting universe, trusting your source, trusting that all is well, that everything always works out for you. That's really wonderful.
And one thing I want to say about that, in order to trust the universe, in order to trust, you have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
See, a lot of people will, the ego says, okay, I trust God and God, everything's going to work out for the best. This is the best thing that could have ever happened to me. No, it happened to you, and it's up to you to make it the best. But things happen, and if I keep telling my subconscious mind, yeah, that horrible accident, and I was in pain, and yeah, a lot of good came out of it. But if I keep telling myself that was the best thing that can happen, your subconscious mind's going to say, oh, okay, we'll keep it happening. Growing through struggle and pain, instead of saying, you know what, it could be better, and the way I deal with it is what makes it better. Not just automatically it was the best thing, but I'm going to turn it into the best thing by
I love
learning the lessons and understanding it. Those are simple half truths out there. A lot of people, talk about that. And I'm looking very orange, aren't I? I'm looking at the light in this room. Like, I look very orange.
Um,
It's
Anu had raised his hand. Anu, do you still want to speak, or have you?
new. Ah, I Anu. I know Anu.
Yeah. Okay. If you raise your hand again, I will allow you to talk. Anu, I don't know if you wanted to do that, but Becky wants to ask a question. So let's,
Sure.
Becky, if you can unmute yourself.
Am
Hi,
There
Becky.
you
am I unmuted? Hello there.
are.
I am very much distracted by all that our current new administration is doing. It feels to me that they are unraveling and destroying our democracy as fast as they possibly can. I don't know how I can find joy in it. I cannot trust myself. I don't know what I can do.
Yeah.
And subsequently, I can't trust that the universe and that all is going to work out well. I appreciate all that you shared with us, but
Yeah.
I'm having a difficult time relating it to everything that's going on in our world right now.
And how
And
does all that make you
I
feel?
apologize to other people who
No, don't apologize,
hold
sweetie. It's
different
what you're at and what you feel.
political perspectives.
Thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, what is this? How does this make you feel? The impact of it
Horrible,
all.
horrible. It makes me
Right.
feel totally out of control. It makes me feel very depressed. It makes me feel very sad. It
Yeah.
makes me feel
Anger,
like
anger.
we have very, very, very hard times ahead of us because of it.
Well, when I was saying about standing in the power, and this is a delicate area, it's not easy because there's a lot of fuel out there to feel powerless and to be afraid. But what's important is to recognize you create your own reality and you will be fine if you choose to. If you own that, you know what? I'm going to live my life. I don't, that person in the White House isn't going to change who I love and how I love in the life that I live. And I'm not going to
Well,
give
they
my
might.
power, but I'm not going to give my power away to that because the more I give my power away, the more powerless I feel
You
and the more
very well might.
afraid. How would he do
I
that?
might find I might find I have no power over anything.
Is it true?
Pardon me?
Is it
It's
true?
a very real possibility. It's a very real possibility.
And what is power?
I don't
What what
know.
how do you define power? Because power comes from choice, free will choice. And we all have choice in our lives. The choice is where all power comes from. That's why people think money is powerful, because money expands choices. But it's the choice that's the real power. You see, if I gave you $5 and said, go downtown and have dinner, you'd be like, okay, I'll be at the drive-thru at Wendy's. If I gave you $500, what changed? Your choices expanded. Choice is where real power comes from. And choosing the power of who you are and how you relate to life is the only thing you, quote, have control over. And that is something that becomes enough when you do take that power back. But yeah, feel the feelings that are coming up. Feel the anger. Hear that, the anger. And this is bringing up a lot of shadow stuff for a lot of people in our world. And it's bringing up a lot of anger. And anger is not bad and wrong. Anger says this has got to change. It demands change. That's one of the positive sides of anger. So yeah, explore the feelings coming up for you because at the depth of those feelings of powerlessness, in the depth is your power, is your ability to make new choices and to stand in your power. But you got to clear out some of the emotional fear and the anger that's underneath it and the hurt. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's would be the way to begin to retrieve your power. And you can do that without worrying about what's going on in the world for right now. Focus in on yourself, take your power back, and then you lift your vibration and you'll have greater impact in your personal world and in your community and in the world at large. But I understand, and it is challenging. It is very challenging. And I'm not trying to
I
say to find joy in what's happening out there, but personally in your world. I'm not happy with what's going on out there, but I'm not giving my power away to it because I know I create my own reality.
Okay, I can create my own reality on a personal level, but I feel totally
Focus on
powerless.
that.
I
Focus
feel
on that.
totally powerless to change what's going on in the world today that will ultimately affect us to a great extent.
This is where the trust that even though on the surface it appears one way, more is happening beneath the surface. I mean, look at the tariffs in China. They're fighting back, and Trump's going to realize, hey, I'm not the only thing in the world, and my policies are going to have impact on the American people if I just want to do this without taking responsibility for the impact. And he's going to have to face a lot of stuff coming up. So it's interesting, but have hope. Don't
Okay.
don't
Thank,
abandon your
thank
hope.
you.
Yeah, don't
Thank you.
abandon your hope. All right. Thank you.
You know, I love that. Hold on one second. I stumbled across a quote from Ram Dass. I think I put it in the newsletter that was, people had asked him, and this was, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, because there's
Yeah.
always the state of the world is always of concern. And he said, people come to me and they ask me, is this Armageddon? Is this the end of the world? Or is it the dawning of the age of Aquarius and it's the new, everything's kind of
Yeah.
beginning? And he says, I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is that what I have control over, right? I can still my mind, I can quiet my mind, I can open my heart, and I can alleviate suffering where I find it.
Yeah.
And that's really what you can control,
Yeah.
right?
And have a hope that even though I don't see the big picture here and understand that there is a lot of magic and miracles that can happen that my ego can't figure out. And therefore, but I'm not going to believe the ego that's limited. The ego thought that the the world was flat.
Yeah,
The collective ego, until somebody with vision and hope and dreams started to discover the truth.
right.
So the ego only takes in what's from the five physical senses. So even though our ego is terrified because I can only see that this is calamity, it doesn't mean that that's true. It doesn't mean that there's not another shift that's going to happen that's going to change the world. And I believe in the positive future, even
Yeah,
though we're going through the birthing pains of the new world, meaning like the
exactly.
labor pains of contraction, and we're exposing the darkness that needs within ourselves and within everything. It's not just out there, it's our own shadow of that we have to face. So anyways, it's
You know,
challenging. It's definitely challenging.
Barbara Marx Hubbard used to talk about this growth in our consciousness as these crises as a birth, a collective birth of a new consciousness. And she said, if you look at birth from the perspective of the baby, it's chaotic, it's painful, the
Traumatic.
walls are
That's
coming in,
traumatic.
everything's squeezing you from every direction, and
Yeah.
you have no idea what's on the other
Excuse
of
me.
that
Yeah.
experience. And Durga actually has typed the same thing. Not sure if this helps, but another way to look at it might be that this is the chaos that you talked about,
The
right?
major chaos in our world.
Before the better future, right? This
Yeah.
is this is what's coming up to be cleared, and
And
um,
what I bring into the chaos collectively is going to influence the outcome of the big picture. So even though you feel like your powers, you can't do anything, who I am and my energy, it's like a cell in your body, You're part of the whole body. And how you function and feel is so important.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And I think I really believe, like I said, I can just sense the groundedness and the calmness of your presence. And as you said, if we hold that that groundedness, that awareness, that presence, it radiates out.
yeah,
Um, Barbara Marx Hubbard used to call it creating islands of coherence within the chaos.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that we can, and as we come together, those islands of coherence become greater and they seed the field, right? They can't help but affect the field.
And also, I noticed too, I love that. That's really great because it's so true. It is so true. We are so much more influential than we realize. But if you go back through History Channel or you look at, I mean, the 70s, Vietnam War, everybody, this kind of turmoil and the government's going to ruin it all and everything. It's been going on. It swings back and forth. So it's like, okay, it's trusting that we survive those times and we are resilient spiritual beings having human experiences on planet Earth. We will survive
Mhm.
and we will become more if I stand in my power and take my power back and learn to dance with chaos and challenge myself to become more and get outside my comfort zone. And the greatest thing, and I love what Marianne Williamson said about, what scares us the most isn't our inferiority and insecurity, it's our power and our strength and just how magnificent we are as spiritual beings.
Mhm.
And so much of my work is to help people remember the truth of who you are.
Yes.
Because we've all through time have forgotten or set our power down, and you are a powerful, majestic spiritual being. And all my work, whether it's courses or classes or private consultations, are all about helping you to retrieve your power. So it's been a real joy to be here, and I know we're getting close to the timing here. Is there any other questions? I can stay on as long as you want me to, but
I love that because I think all of the work that all of us are doing really are pointing to that exact same thing.
yeah,
Because Jerry and I, who's the chairman of FMBR, we talk about this because we really like the science, but it's in service to what, right? It's in
yeah,
service to the realization that we are more, we're more powerful beings than we think, and that
yeah,
we have to wake up to this idea that we're creators and that we are creating and are capable of creating,
yeah.
something really positive and beautiful. So,
One
um,
thing I want to add on that little note is, our ego is the part of us that doesn't feel good enough, that feels powerless, and the ego says, I'm not enough. And guess what? It's right.
yeah,
Your
yeah,
ego isn't enough to make your life work. If you only listen to the five physical senses and you look at what's going on out there without the benefit of reclaiming who you are and aligning with your power, your soul and spirit is the intuition, the creativity, the guidance, the vision. That's what makes your life work. the ego leads that hamster wheel down into the spiral of chaos that is dark and powerless. But when so the ego actually isn't enough to make your life work, given all your power to it and not standing in your power. And not that anybody here is really doing that, but it is, you can see it collectively in the world of people who are mired in their ego and feel like Armageddon is the end of the time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyways, just a little
Oh,
side note
wonderful.
there.
Anu sent a message that he did not mean to raise his hand.
Oh,
He's on the cellular phone, but yeah. So I put the link tree, Michael's information in the chat. And if you're just listening, you can type in michael.com.
yeah.
And the spelling is Michael.com, and it'll bring up a link tree, which is just like all of the things that all of the places you can find him and all of the ways you can connect with him, and everything he's doing. And if you are on Insight Timer, which is a fabulous meditation and more app, he has a lot of content there, courses and meditations, and sometimes, just like a 3-minute wonderful nugget of wisdom that I have
Thank
been
you.
enjoying. Just to
I
kind of,
also do a Wisdom Wednesday live event on Insight Timer every Wednesday. I try to do it. So I'm doing a class on accepting yourself, finally accepting yourself tomorrow, Wednesday at 1 o'clock. But every Wednesday I do some topic. So that's something as well if you want more interaction.
yeah, and I think it's so important during these times to stay connected to each other, to people who are on this path, who are really committed to creating a positive future, because we can get a little knocked,
Oh,
right?
yeah, it's challenging
Right?
for sure.
And to
Yeah,
connect with each other and go, oh yeah, this is why we're here, and to remind that, you know, together we create a stronger field and we can lift each other up.
absolutely.
And Jennifer said she just followed you on um, what's it called?
Insight
Insight.
Timer? Okay,
I'm
cool.
just like,
I'm on YouTube, mostly YouTube Insight Timers, what I've been focusing on, and then I do private consultations. And yeah, check it out. There's lots of links there if you want that course, the mini course on changing limiting beliefs. And it's a 1 hour course, and it'll help guide you through it like I would a coaching client. It's all available, and I look forward to connecting with you all in the future. Those who
yeah,
resonate, be
yeah,
great.
thank you. And thank you, Anu Peter Brandt, for bringing us together and
Yeah.
for bringing Michael to us. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I hope you don't get, if you're here locally, I hope your power stays on and you don't get too much rain. Um,
Keep warm and dry if
keep
you're
warm and dry.
living there.
Exactly. Okay, and we'll see you next time. So thank you all.
Thank you.